Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video we'll be going through quadratic equations, we'll be going through the standard form, we'll be going through the null factor law, and we'll be going through the middle term factor law. So let's first say what a quadratic equation is. So the standard form of a quadratic equation is ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. So that's the standard form of a quadratic equation, and a, b, c, they are all constants. So they are all constants. So they're not variables, and also a does not equal to 0. That is the two rules we must follow when we are writing a standard equation. So that's our standard equation for the for a quadratic equation, and one could be, let's say, x squared plus 3x plus 2 equals 0. So this would be c. So c would be 2, 3 would be b, and a would be 1. So a would be 1. And the reason it's 1, even though there's nothing written next to this x here, we can automatically assume that it will be 1. So whenever there's nothing written next to the x, it will just automatically be 1x squared. Okay. So now we will figure out how to find x, and there's two ways I'm going to show you how to do this, and that is the null factor law and the middle term factor law. So I'll start with the middle term factor law, and essentially what it is, we have to break down this number here, this b, we have to break it down into two terms in such a way that when added equals 3. So we have to make two terms in such a way that when added equals 3. So b1 plus b2 equals 3. But then when multiplied, so b1 times b2, when multiplied it equals 2. So obviously we can, the way I'd like to do it is find the multiples of 2. So there's 2 and 1, and we automatically get our answer. So we have 2 and 1. If we add those two, it equals 3, and if we multiply it, it equals 2. So now it can become x squared plus x plus 2x plus 2 equal 0. Now, as I said before, if there's nothing before the x, it will just automatically be considered 1x. And now we can factorize. So the way we would factorize is these two can be divided by x, alright? So now we can do x times x plus 1, and then these two can be divided by 2. So we would do x times x plus 1 plus 2 times x plus 1. And what have we noticed here? These two are the same. Therefore, our equation would then equal, x plus 2 times x plus 1. So these two both have to be the same whenever we're using the middle term factor law, and if that appears to be true, then these two must also be added to make the second factor. So therefore it would be x plus 2 times x plus 1 equals 0. Now how do we find x? This is where we use the null factor law. The null factor law states is any number, so if this is 2, this definitely has to be negative 2, because this is multiplying with this, and if x equals negative 2 here, then this will amount to 0. This entire thing will amount to 0, so then it will be 0 times x plus 1, which no matter what would be 0. Similarly, for x plus 1, if this part is 1 here, then to make this part 0, then to make this number multiplied by 0, x here has to equal -1. So x there must equal -1, because then our answer becomes 0. Therefore, x equals either so in these cases, most of the time it only has two solutions. So x either equals -2, because -2 plus 2 equals 0, and if you multiply that by anything it equals 0, or -1, because 1 plus -1 equals 0, and if you multiply anything with 0 it equals 0. And we can even substitute these into the equation. So if we assume x equals 0, that would be -2 plus 2 times -2 plus 1 equals 0, and then that would then equal 0 times -1, which equals 0. So that one definitely works. And then if we substitute -1, that would mean -1 plus 2 times -1 plus 1 equals 0. If we simplify it, that means, sorry, if we take out the brackets, that means it would be 1 times 0, which equals 0. So as you can see, if we use both the null factor law and the middle term factor law, they both work incredibly efficiently and we'll get our answer easily. Okay, let's try a few more examples and just go through the questions. Now, let's say we have a question such as, how about x squared plus 6x plus 8 equals 0. So at the start we use the middle term factor law, so we have to break this 6 down into two terms in such a way that when you add them it equals 6, and when you multiply them that equals 8. Once again, the quickest way we can find the multiples of 8, and that would be 8 and 1. Well, 8 plus 1 does not equal 6, it equals 9. 4 times 2, that does work. So 4 plus 2 is 6, so that means we have got our two terms. So therefore it would be x squared plus 2x plus 4x plus 8 equals 0. And now we simplify further. We can factorize x squared plus 2x. We divide that by x, which would be x multiplied by x plus 2. And then we add that with, well, what can 4x plus 8 be divided by? That would be 4. So 4 here, and then x plus 2 equals 0. Once again, we've seen the middle term factor law work, because we've got x plus 2 and x plus 2 on both sides. Therefore, we can now apply x plus 4 into the first bracket. So our answer eventually becomes x plus 4 times x plus 2 equal 0. Now this is where we apply the null factor law, and I'll give you a minute to think about it. Take your time and you can pause the video. I'll just give you like 5 seconds. Pause the video. Okay, done. Now we'll be using the null factor law. If you said x equals -4 or -2, you are right. Because if we have -4 inserted into this x, this bracket individually becomes 0, and 0 multiplied by anything is 0. At the same time, if we instill -2 into this bracket, it will become 0, and 0 multiplied by anything equals 0. So now we've figured out how to use the middle term factor law, how to use the null factor law, and what is a standard equation of ax squared plus bx plus c. I hope you learned something from this video. Comment down below what you want me to do next. In the next video. Hopefully I will be going through factorizing non-monic quadratic equations, and until next time, keep on learning.